Welcome, dear listener. Tonight you are invited to step into another world, one far removed from the noise and distractions of the present. You are invited into a palace of the past, a place of candlelight and quiet corridors, where ancient queens once sought the same thing you seek now, a gentle surrender to sleep. Imagine yourself walking slowly through the grand gates. They are tall, carved with patterns of vines and stars, their wood worn smooth by centuries of touch. The iron hinges move with a deep and steady groan, as if even the doors themselves are tired, longing to close and rest. Beyond the gates, the palace stretches upward and outward, its towers wrapped in the velvet of night. You move step by step, each sound softened by the carpet of moss and stone beneath your feet. The air is still, almost heavy, filled with a faint fragrance, the mingling of roses from the gardens and smoke from distant torches. Overhead, the sky is a quilt of darkness, stitched with small, glowing stars. The moon hovers low, patient and pale, keeping quiet watch over everything. Inside, silence dominates, but it is not an empty silence. It is a full, breathing silence. The kind that holds stories. It's the kind that listens. It's the kind that lets your shoulders relax and your breath slow down. In this palace, the queen herself is preparing for rest. She, too, has carried the burdens of her day letters, decisions, audiences, worries that stretched long into the afternoon. She, too, has known the tightness in the chest that comes with responsibility. And she, too, has sought ways to soften her mind, to cradle her body, to surrender to the great and timeless rhythm of sleep. What she turned to were secrets of the natural world, herbs, flowers, oils, and rituals passed down quietly from healer to healer, from mother to daughter, from chambermaid to queen. Some were gentle and fragrant, like chamomile and lavender. Others were stranger, rooted in mystery, and whispered superstition, mandrake, valerian, even the wings of bats. But each in its own way was believed to carry the same gift: to soothe, to calm, to bring night more quickly, and to make the long hours of darkness less restless, more kind. So let us join her now. Let us walk beside her as she moves through her nightly rituals, step by step, slowly and carefully, until sleep itself arrives like a companion who has been waiting patiently at the edge of the bed. Let us begin. Imagine, if you will, a palace after dusk. The day is past, and with it, the rustle of servants, the clatter of footsteps, the formalities of court. Now, only the softer sounds remain. The quiet trickle of a fountain in the inner courtyard, the faint rustling of tapestries as a draft moves through a corridor, the gentle tap of a moth's wing as it touches the flame of a candle before retreating again into shadow. Candles flicker in their iron holders along the walls, each one breathing a small halo of golden light. Their flames lean and stretch, bending as though whispering secrets to one another. Shadows answer in kind, rising long and tall, reaching across stone floors, sliding up carved columns, brushing against ceilings high above. Silk curtains sway at the windows, catching the night breeze that carries with it the cool fragrance of the gardens outside. If you lean close, you might smell the faint sweetness of lilies mixed with the deeper, earthier scent of wet soil. It is the fragrance of life, slowed but not asleep, waiting quietly in the dark. The palace itself feels alive. Its walls seem to hum faintly with memory, with centuries of voices and footsteps, with all the queens who walked here before. Every stone has absorbed 1,000 nights like this one, some filled with worry, some with relief, many with the longing for peace. Tonight is no different. At the heart of this palace, in her chamber, the queen prepares for rest. Her room is vast, yet softened with texture and light. Velvet drapes fall heavy against the walls. No painted screens divide corners of the space, and polished floors reflect the glow of candlelight. At the center rests her bed-in immense frame carved from dark wood, dressed in linen sheets and silk blankets, each fold smoothed carefully by the hands of her maids. The queen stands at the edge of this room, her shadow stretching across the floor. She is not dressed in jewels or silks as she would be for the court. Instead, she wears a robe of soft fabric, dyed the pale color of moonlight. Her hair, once braided tightly for the day, has been loosened so that it falls freely over her shoulders. Without the crown, without the golden ornaments, She seems almost ordinary, simply a woman ready for sleep. She pauses for a moment, her gaze turned toward the window. Beyond the glass lies the night itself, endless and unbroken, a blanket of deep blue stitched with stars. She listens. She allows herself to notice how still everything has become. And in this noticing, something within her chest loosens. This is the first step in her ritual. Not an herb, not a drink, not a potion, but simply the awareness of silence. A silence that cradles her, a silence that welcomes her, a silence that belongs to the palace and to the night itself. As she turns from the window, her footsteps barely stir the air. The chamber holds its breath. Even the flickering of the candles seems slower, steadier, calmer. And you too are invited into this rhythm. The rhythm of slowing down, of breathing with the palace, of preparing, gently and patiently, to drift into sleep. The queen sits quietly. Her chamber is vast, but in this moment, the room feels smaller, softer, more intimate because she is seated in the center of it, her body still, her gaze lowered, her breath steady. The day is behind her. The scrolls have been signed, the words have been spoken, the audiences have ended. Yet even when the crown is set aside, the mind does not immediately rest. It carries the echo of voices, the weight of choices, the endless weaving of thought. The queen knows this, as you do, that the body longs for rest, but the mind resists. And so, she begins with breath. Her chair is carved from dark wood, smooth to the touch, worn by years of use. Its arms cradle her gently, as though it remembers the weight of her body from countless nights before. She places her palms upon her lap, fingers relaxed, shoulders softened. Round her, the chamber hums with stillness, as though waiting. Her inhale is slow, so slow that it seems the air itself hesitates, lingering in the space between her lips and the world. She draws it inward, not hurried, not forced, but patient, like the tide pulling gently upon the shore. The air is cool at first, carrying the faint traces of candle smoke and lavender from a nearby sachet. It passes through her nose, down into her chest, filling the hollow spaces with calm, and then the exhale. Long, drawn out, steady. Her breath leaves her as though it has all the time in the world. It carries with it the heaviness of thought, the fragments of conversation, the invisible burden of decisions. Each exhale is a release. Each exhale is a letting go. The rhythm begins to form. Inhales, soft and deep. Exhale long and slow. Again and again and again. Her breathing takes on a shape, a cycle, like the turning of a great wheel. Each revolution smooths the roughness of her day. Each cycle polishes away the noise that clings to her. With every inhale, she welcomes peace. With every exhale, she sets aside what no longer belongs to this hour of night. You may imagine, if you wish, the sound of it. It's not loud, not sharp, but gentle, almost imperceptible. The faintest whisper of air passing in and out, like the sound of leaves brushing against one another in a soft breeze. If you listen closely, you might feel your own breathing begin to mirror hers, slow, steady, unhurried. Ow. Her maids stand quietly at the edges of the room, but they make no sound, no interruption. They know this moment is sacred. They know that this rhythm of breath is more powerful than any jewel or crown, for it brings her into harmony with herself. The chamber adjusts around her breathing. Candles flicker in time with her inhale. Their flames lean slightly forward, then pull back, as though the room itself joins her rhythm. The curtains sway almost imperceptibly, a gentle response to the shift in air. Even the shadows on the wall seem to rise and fall with her, expanding and shrinking in unison with the tide of her breath. With each cycle, she drifts further inward. The thoughts of the day grow more distant, like voices fading down a long corridor. They do not vanish all at once. They soften, slowly, respectfully, as though bowing their heads and stepping aside. Her face grows serene. The small furrows on her brow smooth themselves. The corners of her lips, once pressed with restraint, loosen. Her eyes, though open, are half-lidded, their gaze unfocused, turned not outward, but inward. Toward the rhythm of her own being, time begins to blur. A minute feels like many. Many minutes feel like one. The queen is suspended in the flow of her own breath, and in that suspension the palace seems to fade. No longer is she surrounded by towering columns, painted screens, or golden ornaments. In this moment, the only architecture that matters is the rise and fall of her chest, the expansion and release of her lungs, the simple yet profound act of breathing. Inhale, peace enters. Exhale, worries depart. Over and over. The cycle is endless, but it is not tiring. It is nourishing. It's comforting. It is like being rocked gently by unseen arms, or carried on the surface of a slow-moving river that never rushes, never forces, never ends. Sometimes her breath catches faintly, like a ripple across still water. The body remembers tension, after all. But even these ripples dissolve with patience. She allows them, acknowledges them, and then releases them with the next exhale. Nothing is resisted. Nothing is forced. Everything is allowed to arrive, and then allowed to pass. The maids, too, breathe more slowly as they watch her. Though silent, though standing in the shadows, they are drawn into her rhythm. The chamber, the night, the very air seems to fall under the same spell of slowing, calming, softening. The queen knows this ritual well. She has done it on nights of triumph and on nights of sorrow. She has done it when the palace was filled with laughter, and she has done it when the palace was filled with whispers of war. The breath does not change with circumstance. It is always the same, always available, always patient. And so she continues. Inhale like drawing cool water from a deep well. Exhale like pouring it slowly back into the earth. Her shoulders sink lower. Her body grows heavier against the chair. Her mind loosens its grip, finger by finger, on the strands of thought it clutched throughout the day. What remains is quiet, a deep and growing quiet. This is the queen's breath. Not extraordinary, not dramatic, but profoundly human. It is the same breath that filled the lungs of her ancestors, the same breath that carries through the halls of time, the same breath that, in this moment, you may feel in your own chests, slow, steady, and unhurried. You may notice as you listen that your own breathing has shifted. Perhaps your inhales are a little deeper, your exhales a little longer. Perhaps your shoulders, too, have softened, your mind beginning to mirror the queen's surrender. And so, you breathe together. Across centuries, across distance, across silence. The queen, seated in her chamber, and you, wherever you may be, both carried by the same rhythm, both cradled by the same tide. Breath after breath, the night grows deeper, the palace grows quieter, and the queen prepares to take her next step towards sleep. The queen does not rise immediately from her chair. She allows the rhythm of her breath to linger a little longer, like a melody that continues to hum after the musicians have stopped playing. The chamber is hushed, its silence deepened by her stillness. Candles flicker, curtains sway faintly. The very air seems to listen. And then very softly a sound enters the room. It is the measured tread of footsteps, muted by thick rugs. A maid approaches, carrying in her hands a cup. The vessel is simple, though not plain. It is made of glazed clay, the surface smooth, cool to the touch, painted faintly with patterns of curling vines. Within it, steam rises in delicate threads, curling upward in search of the ceiling. Chamomile. The fragrance arrives before the cup itself, the warm, honeyed sweetness. Light but distinct. It drifts gently through the air, weaving itself into the chamber's stillness. The queen lifts her head, her eyes following the invisible trail of scent, and already her body responds. The shoulders sink deeper. The jaw unclenches. Even before her lips touch the cup, the herb has begun its work. The maid kneels and places the cup upon a small table beside the queen's chair. Her movements are careful, reverent. The sound of clay meeting wood is soft, almost inaudible. Yet in the silence of the chamber, it feels significant. For a moment, the queen does not touch it. She waits. She allows the steam to rise, to brush against her face, to curl into her hair. The fragrance is richer now, mingled with the faint smoke of candles. The earthy scent of stone walls, the subtle perfume of lavender that lingers on her robes. All of it together creates an atmosphere of warmth and rest, like layers of blankets drawn across the body. At last, she reaches. Her hand, pale in the candlelight, moves slowly toward the cup. The clay is warm against her fingers, radiating heat into her skin. She lifts it with both hands, steady and deliberate, as though holding not just a drink, but a ritual, a tradition, a promise whispered across generations. She brings it close, right, her eyes close. She inhales. The fragrance floods her senses, sweet, floral, grassy, with a softness that lingers like velvet at the edge of thought. Chamomile has been called many things across time. The humble flower, the physician's herb, the sleep bringer. To the queen it is simply comfort, familiar, trustworthy, a companion of the night. She tilts the cup. Oh, the liquid touches her lips. Warmth enters her mouth, flowing over her tongue, coating her throat. It is not heavy, not sharp, but gentle like golden sunlight caught in liquid form. The first sip is small, almost tentative, yet its effect is immediate. Her chest loosens further. Her breath lengthens. A faint sigh escapes her lips, unplanned, unforced, as if her body itself thanks the herb. The second sip follows, slower, deeper. She holds the liquid on her tongue, savoring its quiet sweetness, the way it seems both simple and profound at once. Chamomile is not the wine of celebration, nor the bitter brew of medicine. It asks nothing. It offers everything. A plant of fields and gardens transformed here into something almost sacred. Outside the window, the night deepens. The stars, countless and patient, shine more brightly as the moon drifts higher. The gardens rest in silence, their flowers closed, their branches swaying faintly in the breeze. Yet even here, beyond the walls of stone, chamomile grows, small, white-petaled, unassuming. A flower that bends in the wind, that thrives in humble soil, that carries within it the quiet strength to soothe queens and commoners alike. The queen drinks again and again. Ah! Each sip is slower than the last. Each swallow draws her further inward. The warmth spreads through her chest, down into her stomach, then outward into her arms and legs. It is as though her body, piece by piece, is being wrapped in an invisible shawl woven of calm. Her mind, too, shifts. Thoughts that once circled endlessly now drift apart, like smoke rising into the rafters. They lose their shape. They lose their urgency. What remains is stillness, and within that stillness, a gentle drowsiness begins to bloom. She lowers the cup for a moment, resting it in her lap. Steam continues to rise, caressing her face, carrying its sweetness into the air. She watches the tendrils curl and vanish, and in them she sees a mirror of her own state, thoughts rising, drifting, dissolving. The maid, standing nearby, keeps her head bowed, her hands folded neatly in front of her. She has seen this ritual many times, yet she treats it with the same reverence each night. For she knows that in this simple act, the sipping of a flower essence, the queen finds peace more valuable than gold. It's more necessary than jewels. The queen lifts the cup once more. Her fingers, warmed by the clay, curl gently around it. She takes another sip, then another. Liquid within grows less. The warmth within her grows more. Her eyelids grow heavier, her body looser, her breath quieter still. Chamomile, humble though it may be, has carried her across the threshold. From waking into drowsiness, from the weight of the crown into the lightness of rest, she does not rush the final sip. She waits. And when at last the cup is empty, she places it carefully back upon the table, as though leaving behind not just a vessel, but the day itself, where in that empty cup lies the promise that sleep is near. The queen's cup is empty now. The warmth of chamomile rests within her body, a quiet fire that does not burn, but glows. She sets the vessel aside, and for a moment, she simply lingers in stillness. Her breath, already softened, drifts in and out like the gentle rocking of a cradle. But her ritual is not yet complete. The queen rises from her chair with deliberate slowness, the folds of her robe whispering against the stone floor. The chamber shifts with her movement. Candles tremble, shadows stretch, curtains stir as though acknowledging her presence. She crosses the space toward her bed, a vast and welcoming shape at the heart of the room. It waits for her, layered with silks and linens, carved posts rising tall like sentinels, the canopy draped with fabric heavy enough to block the morning sun. Yet it is not the wood, nor the silk, nor the linen that holds the deepest secret of this bed. It is something smaller, something humble, something hidden in the folds of the pillow. Lavender. The maids have placed it there carefully, as they do each evening. Small sachets of dried blossoms sewn into pouches of soft cloth, tucked just beneath the layers where head meets rest. Not large, not obvious, but subtle, intentional, precise. As the queen draws closer, the fragrance greets her. It is faint, at first barely noticeable, a whisper at the edges of air. But as she lowers herself nearer, the scent blooms, sweet, herbal, floral with a touch of earth. It rises from the pillow like an invisible cloud, gentle and patient, waiting only to be discovered. The queen leans down, her face nearing the linens, and inhales. The effect is immediate, though quiet, a loosening, surrender. Lavender has no sharpness, no demand. It does not seize the senses. Instead, it drapes them layer by layer in calm. It speaks not with volume, but with persistence. It says, rest now, soften now, drift now. She brushes her fingers across the pillow. The linen is cool to the touch, smooth, carrying faint impressions of embroidered patterns stitched by hand. Beneath that smoothness lies the sachet, its shape subtle, its contents hidden, but its fragrance undeniable. The blossoms once gathered in sunlit fields now lie here, transformed from color to scent, from flower to dream. The queen sits at the edge of the bed. She closes her eyes. She breathes again. Lavender fills her lungs. It travels down her throat, through her chest, into her blood, into her thoughts. With every inhale, she feels it weaving through her body like a thread of light. With every exhale, she feels the heaviness of the day loosening further, like knots untangling, like cords untying. She remembers, perhaps, the fields where these blossoms once grew, wide expanses of green, punctuated by countless purple flowers swaying in the wind. The hum of bees moving from stem to stem, the heat of sunlight warming the soil. She has walked such fields before. She has bent down to touch the flowers, to rub their petals between her fingers, to carry their fragrance back with her. And now, even in the chamber's stone embrace, she carries those memories again. The pillow becomes more than fabric, more than linen, more than stuffing. It becomes a meadow. It becomes a fragment of earth placed beneath her head, holding not just her weight, but her dreams. The maids move quietly around her. One straightens the blanket, another draws the curtains more tightly against the night, another adjusts the small sachets, ensuring they rest in the perfect place. Their movements are nearly silent, yet in that silence lies ritual. They know that lavender is no mere decoration. It is medicine, it is prayer, it is the invisible guardian of the queen's sleep. The queen lowers herself, slowly, carefully. Her body stretches across the bed, her head sinking toward the pillow. The sachets release their fragrance more fully now, warmed by the nearness of her skin, awakened by her breath. The scent rises like a veil, surrounding her face, her hair, her thoughts. She exhales into the fabric. The pillow accepts the breath, soft and forgiving, and in return, offers the fragrance of lavender back to her. A cycle is formed. Breath given, breath received. Body surrendered, body supported. The lavender whispers. It whispers in ways that are not heard, but felt. It says, you have carried much. Set it down. You have spoken much. Be silent now. You have stood tall. Lie down. You are safe. You are watched. You're allowed to rest. Her body listens. The tension in her neck, the heaviness in her shoulders, the restlessness in her arms, all of it begins to dissolve. Piece by piece, as though undone by invisible fingers, the weight lifts. She sinks deeper into the bed. Her breath slows further. Her mind, though still flickering faintly with thought, begins to drift, lulled by the scent, cradled by the fabric. The sachets remain hidden. They do not boast. They do not call attention. They simply exist, quietly, persistently, doing their work. And that work is profound, for lavender has long been the herb of sleep. Healers once placed it in satchels for travelers to ward off restlessness. Mothers once laid it near their children to keep away bad dreams. Priests once burned it in temples to purify the air and calm the spirit. Across time, across cultures, across kingdoms, Lavender has always spoken the same language, the language of peace. The queen knows this. She trusts this. She surrenders to this. Her hand rests lightly upon the blanket, her fingers loosening, her palm turning upward, open. Her lips part slightly as her breath grows deeper, quieter. Her eyes close fully now, their lids heavy, their movements stilled. The lavender continues. It does not fade. It does not falter. It lingers, constant, surrounding her, filling her, carrying her further into night. The palace outside remains silent. The stars continue their vigil. The moon climbs higher. Time passes. But here, within the chamber, within the pillow, within the sachets of lavender, the queen is being carried away slowly, tenderly, into the arms of sleep. The queen lies upon her lavender pillow. Fragrance still lingers around her face, steady and soft, weaving invisible threads through her breath, her thoughts, her pulse. The chamber has grown even quieter. The flames of the candles flicker less eagerly now, their movements small and tired, as if they, too, are preparing to close their eyes. Yet the queen is not fully ready to surrender. Not yet. For tonight is long, and the burden of her crown has been heavy. Lavender and chamomile have carried her far into calm, but sometimes the body asks for something deeper, something stronger, something that does not merely guide the edge of sleep, but opens its gates wide, leading her into the darker forests of rest, where dreams grow thick and shadows are kind. And so she calls for another secret. The maid nearest to her bed inclines her head, then moves toward a small carved box resting upon a low wooden table. The box is old. Its surface darkened by age, its edges worn smooth by the touch of generations. Carved into its lid are twisting vines, their leaves curling and unfurling in patterns that seem to move if stared at too long. Within this box lies an herb that is not bright and floral, not delicate and sweet, but sharp, earthy, and strange. Valerian. The lid opens with a soft sigh, as though the box itself has been waiting. Inside, carefully wrapped in cloth, are the roots, dry, knotted, twisting like strands of hair or like fingers frozen in motion. They are not beautiful to look at. They do not carry the graceful elegance of lavender blossoms or the delicate purity of chamomile flowers. But their strength lies not in beauty. Their strength lies in what they do unseen. The maid unwraps a small portion and holds it near the queen. The scent rises immediately sharp, pungent, earthy. To some it is unpleasant. To some it is too strong, too bitter, too wild. But the queen does not recoil. She knows this aroma. She knows its promise. The smell is of earth itself, of roots deep in soil, of darkness beneath fields where no sunlight reaches. It is the scent of what grows unseen, of what works in silence, of what pulls the body downward, downward toward heaviness, downward toward stillness, downward into the gravity of sleep. The queen inhales, slowly, patiently. She lets the sharpness enter her. She does not resist the strangeness. She accepts it. She welcomes it. Valerian has long been called many things, all heal. The key to rest. It's the root of dreams. Ancient healers carried it in pouches. Physicians prescribed it to those restless with fever, and mystics believed it opened hidden doors of the mind. Soldiers once used it to quiet the trembling of nerves. Travelers once tucked it into their satchels for courage. And queens, like the one before you, used it when the burden of sleeplessness grew too heavy to carry alone. The maid grinds a small portion of the dried root with a stone pestle, the motion slow and circular, steady as a lullaby. The sound is faint, but in the chamber's silence it seems louder, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Once prepared, it is placed into a small vessel of warm water. The liquid darkens, clouds swirling, the sharp scent rising more fully. The queen takes the cup into her hands. It is heavier than the chamomile vessel, its heat stronger, its aroma thicker, more commanding. She lifts it slowly, as though carrying not just liquid, but the weight of centuries. Her lips touch the rim. She sips. The taste is bitter, strong, rooted. It does not please the tongue the way chamomile's sweetness does. But the queen does not drink for pleasure. She drinks for surrender. She drinks for silence, She drinks for the weight that Valerian promises to bring, a weight not of burden, but of release. The liquid spreads through her body. It is slower to move, slower to reveal itself. Chamomile is gentle sunlight. Lavender is cool night air. Valerian is something deeper. It is soil. It is shadow. It is the heavy cloak laid upon the shoulders of the restless, pressing them down into the safety of stillness. The queen feels it first in her chest, then in her arms, then in her legs. A heaviness, not painful, not uncomfortable, but grounding. As though her body, which floated lightly before, is now being anchored, pulled softly toward the bed. Toward the earth, toward the inevitability of sleep. Her eyelids grow heavier. They flutter once, twice, as though struggling to remain open, before closing halfway. The world blurs at the edges. The candlelight stretches into long ribbons of gold, fading in and out like distant memories. She drinks again and again. Each sip deepens the effect. The bitterness lingers on her tongue, but even that bitterness becomes part of the ritual, part of the charm. For in bitterness there is relief, in sharpness there is clarity, earthiness there is grounding. Valerian does not whisper sweetly as lavender does. It does not hum gently as chamomile does. It speaks in a voice lower, older, more commanding. It says, "You will rest, you will yield, you will let go," and the queen obeys. Her breath grows slower still. Her hands loosen their hold on the cup. A maid takes it gently from her and sets it aside, leaving her to sink deeper into the pillow, into the sheets, into herself. The chamber seems to darken. It's not because the candles have gone out, but because her mind is closing. One door at a time, one corridor at a time. Thoughts that once moved freely are now sluggish, heavy, slow. They do not vanish all at once. They descend, gradually, into the soil of her mind, where they will rest until morning. The queen is still aware faintly of the lavender, of the chamomile, of the warmth of her bed. But beneath them all, weaving like roots beneath the surface, lies Valerian, hidden, powerful, patient. It is the unseen hand that holds her, the unseen weight that steadies her, the unseen promise that this night will not be restless. The queen exhales, long and low. Her chest rises once more, then falls. The fragrance of Valerian lingers in the air, earthy and strange, a reminder that sometimes the path to peace is not through sweetness, but through surrender. And so, with Valerian in her veins, she closes her eyes. The palace watches. The night deepens. And the queen drifts further, further into the secret valleys of sleep. The queen rests, her body already heavy with the quiet insistence of Valerian. Her breath is slow, steady, and low, rising and falling, as if the very tides of night are moving through her chest. Yet still, though the doors of her mind are half closed, though her body has surrendered its weight to the bed, she lingers on the threshold. She is not yet fully lost to sleep. And so, as part of her ancient ritual, another step unfolds. The chambermaid nearest to the bed bows and steps toward a small silver tray where a goblet waits. Its surface catches the faint light of the candles, reflections curling across the polished metal like whispers of flame. Within the goblet rests a liquid darker than chamomile, richer than Valerian's brew. A wine, but not an ordinary one. It has been infused with lemon balm. The wine itself is soft, not strong, chosen for its gentleness rather than its power. It has been mixed with honey, with water, with herbs. It is no intoxicating draught meant to stir wildness of spirit. It is a night wine, a sleep wine, crafted for serenity. Into it has been steeped the delicate leaves of lemon balm, known since the time of forgotten kingdoms as Melissa officinalis, the balm of bees, the balm of peace. The maid lifts the goblet carefully with both hands, as though carrying a sacred vessel. She approaches the queen's bedside, kneels, and raises it toward her. The queen opens her eyes, heavy-lidded, her gaze clouded but aware. She takes the goblet, her fingers brushing the cool metal, feeling its weight substantial, but not overwhelming. She lifts it to her lips. The scent rises first. Not sharp, like valerian, not floral like lavender, not sweet like chamomile, but fresh, light, and green. A whisper of citrus hidden within the leaves, like sunlight caught in a forest clearing, like air after rain, like a garden at dawn. The queen breathes it in, and her lungs seem to sigh with relief. Then she drinks. The liquid touches her tongue, smooth and mellow. The honey softens the edges, the water lightens the strength, but the herb speaks clearly through it all, lemon balm. Gentle, kind, carrying with it a calmness that is not heavy, not commanding, but soothing like the hand of a mother brushing hair from a child's forehead, or the quiet murmur of bees drifting lazily in summer fields. She swallows, and warmth spreads outward. Not the grounding heaviness of valerian, but a tender warmth, a balancing, a weaving together of calm and comfort. The wine with lemon balm has always been known as a drink of harmony. Ancient healers once said it gladdens the heart and drives away sorrow. Monks grew it in cloistered gardens, brewing it into tonics that softened troubled minds. Physicians recommended it to those restless with grief, for it lightened the spirit as much as it calmed the body. Even poets wrote of it, describing the way its fragrance lingered in the evening air, a quiet promise that not all days must end in sorrow. The queen drinks again, and with each sip, the chamber seems to brighten, not with light, but with gentleness. The flames do not burn, they glow. The shadows do not loom, they soften. Even the silence itself seems too warm, as though sound has not left the room but simply curled itself into a comfortable rest. The queen lowers the goblet, resting it against her chest for a moment. She closes her eyes. The warmth of the wine, the freshness of the lemon balm, the sweetness of honey, they mingle in her blood. Her shoulders ease. Her lips part slightly. She exhales a long, slow breath, and the air carries with it a faint note of citrus and sweetness. Her mind, though slowed by valerian, is now eased by balm. The weight remains, but it is no longer a heaviness pressing down. It is a heaviness cradled, balanced by a lightness that lifts from within. She thinks, perhaps faintly, of gardens long ago. Gardens where lemon balm grew thick and fragrant, buzzing with bees drawn to its flowers. She remembers leaning close to the leaves, crushing them gently between her fingers, releasing that unmistakable scent both bright and soft, both lively and calming. In her memory, the sun is warm, the air is gentle, and time itself seems slower. That memory is in the cup. That memory is now in her. The maid takes the goblet back once the last sip is finished. She sets it quietly upon the tray. The queen lies deeper into her bed. Her head sinks into the lavender pillow, her body loosened by valerian, her spirit lifted by lemon balm. The three herbs weave together now, chamomile, lavender, balm, each thread distinct, yet all part of the same tapestry of rest. The tapestry holds her. Outside, the palace remains silent. The halls are dark, the guards stand watch, the banners hang unmoving in the still air of the night. Beyond the palace walls, fields lie under starlight. Rivers sleep in their beds of stone, and forests whisper in the breeze. But here within the queen's chamber, the ritual of rest continues, layer upon layer, deeper and deeper. The queen exhales again. The breath is longer now, slower, almost sighing. Her body turns slightly, shifting into comfort, settling into place as though sculpted into the bed itself. The wine with lemon balm lingers in her veins. It whispers through her blood, gentle and clear. You are safe, you are held, you are balanced. Sleep is not an enemy. Sleep is a friend who has been waiting patiently, a friend who now opens wide its arms. Her eyelids close again, fully, and remain closed. Her hands rest still upon the blanket. The fragrance of lavender rises, the weight of valerian steadies, the warmth of lemon balm comforts. And slowly, steadily, the queen drifts downward, inward deeper, not into darkness, but into rest, not into emptiness, but into peace. And the night watches over her, as it has always done, and as it always will. The queen's chamber grows still once more. The wine with lemon balm has left her body heavy, her spirit softened, her thoughts half dissolved into the quiet of the room. Yet, though her eyes drift shut, the night does not fall into silence. For there are voices, not loud, not commanding, not insistent, but soft woven into the very fabric of the room like threads of sound, too delicate, too disturb, too gentle to resist. In the corner of the chamber, her maids kneel on woven mats. Their heads are bowed, their hands folded, their bodies calm. They do not speak as servants tending to a queen. They do not chatter, nor gossip, nor fill the air with needless words. Instead, they murmur in tones so low, so even, that the voice itself feels more like a rhythm than a sound. At first, it is prayer. The words are old, older than the palace, older than the crown, older even than the queen herself. They have been whispered by countless voices before, carried across centuries, across kingdoms, across shifting dynasties. These words have passed through temples and cloisters, through villages and cities, through homes and courts, and now, in the silence of night, they reach this chamber, carried upon the lips of women whose duty is more than service. It is guardianship. Prayers are spoken in unison, but gently so. Not perfectly aligned, not harshly timed, but flowing like a brook murmuring over smooth stones. Where every droplet finds its way into the current, where every note finds its place in the song. The queen listens, though her eyes remain closed. The sound does not demand her attention, does not rise or fall sharply. It does not rouse her, it soothes her. The words slip into her mind the way incense curls into the air, unseen, delicate, dissolving as soon as they are noticed. She does not cling to their meaning, for the meaning is not what matters. What matters is the rhythm, the tone, the unbroken stream of quiet sound. Her maids know this well. They do not sing to entertain her. They do not pray to impress her. They pray because sound itself has power. A soft voice spoken steadily carries with it the ability to anchor the mind, to hold wandering thoughts in a gentle hand, to smooth away the turbulence that lingers even after herbs and wine have done their work, and so they murmur on. When the prayers fade, another voice begins low, careful, measured, a poem. Syllables rise and fall like the sway of branches in wind. Its phrases are long and unhurried, drifting across the chamber as though carved from shadow itself. The poem is not one of triumph or fire, not of glory or war. It is a poem of stillness. A poem of moonlight on water, of stars woven into the night sky, of gardens heavy with fragrance. A poem of sleep disguised as verse. The queen does not follow every word. She is not meant to. Instead, the cadences wash over her, the way a tide laps against a shore again and again, until the shore itself forgets where the sea ends and the land begins. One maid pauses and another continues. Their voices shift, one higher, one lower, one slower, one steadier. The queen is surrounded not by noise, but by a circle of sound, a cocoon spun, not of silk or thread, but of murmurs. The effect is not unlike the weaving of dreams, for in dreams, voices often blur, half heard, half remembered, fragments of sound that comfort without clarity. And here in this chamber, the same thing occurs. The queen drifts between waking and sleep, and the maids' voices become the dream before the dream itself arrives. The candle flames flicker against the walls. Their light trembles as the words pass through the air, as though flame and sound are drawn into the same rhythm, the same lull. Shadows sway like dancers, keeping time with words too faint to command, but too constant to ignore. The queen breathes in, and the voices fill the breath. She exhales, and the voices remain, flowing around her like water around a stone. There is no urgency, no end to be reached. Only the endless continuity of sound stretched across the night like an invisible thread, drawing her deeper and deeper into stillness. Perhaps in another century, other queens have heard the same voices. Perhaps in other courts, far beyond the reach of this palace, servants have murmured the same soft prayers, the same quiet verses, the same unbroken tones that guide the restless mind into peace. This is the continuity of night. This is the inheritance of ritual. The queen shifts slightly upon her pillow, her body nearly weightless now. Her eyelids flutter, but do not open. Her lips part just enough for her breath to slip free. She is not yet lost to sleep, but she is suspended balance between the world of the waking and the world of the dreaming, held steady by herbs, by wine, by fragrance, by voice. And still, the maids continue. Some hum without words, their tones no more than vibrations. The sound is round, full, without edge. It enters the chamber like a cloud drifting through an open sky. Others repeat the prayers, circling back to the same lines, the same cadences, though time itself has bent into a loop. Repetition, gentle repetition, not insistent, not sharp, light. but like the pulse of the body, steady and enduring. The queen hears not as thought, not as language, but as rhythm, a heartbeat not her own, a breath not her own, a continuity that extends beyond her, carrying her along. The maid's voices weave through the silence like threads through cloth, and when silence comes again, it does not fall as emptiness, it falls as fullness. Silence filled with memory of sound. Silence that vibrates faintly with what was spoken, as though the air itself remembers. The queen drifts deeper. Her fingers are loose. Her chest rises and falls more slowly. Her head sinks further into lavender. Her blood carries the last sweetness of wine. Her mind floats upon the voices of others. And so she rests not alone, not vulnerable, but accompanied. Guarded not by swords, not by walls, but by the gentlest of things. Sound itself. The night holds her. The voices cradle her, and the chamber breathes as one. The queen's chamber is hushed, bathed in the gentle rhythm of the maid's voices. Their prayers and poems fade into the background, settling like mist upon the air. The fragrance of lavender still lingers upon the pillow. The sweetness of honey and lemon balm still drifts faintly in her breath. And yet tonight the ritual is not complete. There is one more step, one more layer of tradition, one more key to unlock the deeper gates of sleep. A small wooden chest rests near the bedside. Its surface is carved with symbols worn smooth by years of touch. No crown, no crest, no jewel marks, only spirals, knots, and patterns that seem almost alive when the candlelight brushes against them. Within lies the mandrake. It is not brought forth lightly. Only on certain nights, when rest does not come easily, when the queen's thoughts refuse to quiet, when her body is tired but her spirit still wanders. On these nights, the mandrake is taken from its resting place and placed at the heart of the ritual. The maid, chosen for this task, approaches slowly. Her steps are deliberate, her breathing controlled. She kneels before the chest, lifts its lid with care, and reveals what lies within. Ancient hands once whispered that mandrake grows in the shape of people, their limbs curled in the soil, their faces hidden in the earth. The one within the queen's chest is thick and knotted, its shape uncanny, its presence heavy even in silence. Its scent was earthy, sharp, with a note of strangeness that sets it apart from gentler herbs. Where chamomile is kind and lavender is tender, mandrake is solemn. It carries the gravity of deep soil, of hidden places, of roots that touch darkness long before they touch the light. The maid lifts it with both hands, as though cradling something fragile, and carries it to the queen's bedside. The queen opens her eyes, half-lidded, drowsy yet alert. She knows this part of the ritual well. She has heard the stories, just as all who live in palaces have heard them. Stories of how mandrake cries when torn from the earth, its voice deadly to those who hear it. Stories of how it must be pulled from the soil with cunning dogs tied to ropes, farmers shielding their ears, rituals performed under the moon. Stories of how it carries power not just of sleep, but of visions, of fertility, of protection, of enchantment. The queen knows the fear. She knows the superstition. But she also knows the calm. For when taken with respect, when used in measured portions, the mandrake does not terrify, it soothes. It invites a deeper stillness, one edged with strangeness, one that feels almost like drifting into another world. The maid places the root into a small wooden bowl. Warm milk is poured over it, milk, drawn from the palace kitchens, gently heated, steaming faintly in the candlelight. The mandrake rests within, soaking, its sharpness softened by the warmth, its bitterness tempered by the richness of the milk. The mixture is stirred, slow and careful, until the root yields its essence, clouding the milk with its pale shadow. The queen is handed the cup. She lifts it slowly, feeling the warmth in her fingers. She brings it near her lips, inhales the faintly earthy scent, and drinks. The taste is strange. It's not unpleasant, but unusual. A mixture of soil and sweetness, of warmth and depth. It fills her mouth, her throat, her chest, and with it comes a heaviness different from Valerian's weight, different from Baum's gentleness. This is a heaviness ancient, primal, as though the earth itself has entered her veins. Her eyelids sink lower. Her body softens further against the bed. Her thoughts grow less distinct, blurred at the edges, as though the world itself is being wrapped in mist. She thinks of the myths again, of roots that screamed, of figures that resembled men and women grown from the soil itself, of sorcerers who used mandrake in potions, of healers who used it to ease pain, of queens who used it to surrender themselves into slumber when the weight of crown and duty grew too heavy to bear. She feels connected to them, not frightened, but tethered, linked by the shared thread of ritual. One queen after another, one century after another, one night after another, the mandrake carries her deeper now. Her arms grow numb, heavy and warm. Her breath slows to a rhythm so steady it feels older than her body, older than her heart, older than her own being. The chamber dissolves into shadows. The voices of the maids become distant, like echoes in a cavern. Even the candle flames seemed far away, dimmed and blurred, as though she watches them through a veil. And yet she is not lost. She is not afraid. She is cradled. She is carried. She is drawn into the current of a river that flows not just through this night, but through all nights. Mandrake has always been a doorway into sleep, into dream, into silence deeper than silence. And tonight, the queen steps through it, guided by roots, by soil, by earth. Her body remains upon the bed, but her spirit drifts further, downward, inward, deeper than ever before. And the chamber holds its breath, as though the walls themselves are listening. The queen sleeps, but not lightly, not simply. She sleeps the sleep of roots, sleep of the earth, sleep of mandrake. The chamber is nearly silent now. The queen lies between wakefulness and dream, her breath deepened, her body softened, her spirit carried by herbs, by mandrake, by the watchful wings of bats. Yet one final ritual remains. One final embrace of night before sleep fully claims her. It begins with oil. A small cabinet carved of cedar and inlaid with ivory stands near the bed. Within, glass vials are arranged in careful order, their shapes delicate, their surfaces catching the faint glow of candlelight. Each vial holds a fragment of the earth, liquid gathered from flower, seed, root, or resin. Each carries not only fragrance, but history. The maid opens the cabinet with reverence. Her hands do not rush. They move as though guided by something older than habit, older than memory. She withdraws the vials one by one, placing them upon a silver tray. A vial of lavender oil, pale and soft, carrying the essence of summer fields. A vial of frankincense, golden with the sharpness of sacred smoke. A vial of rose, crimson in scent, though clear and liquid, recalling gardens where petals open at dawn. A vial of sandalwood, deep and earthy, like polished wood that has absorbed centuries of silence. A vial of chamomile, faint but steady, like whispers in the grass. Each is uncorked, slowly. The fragrance of the chamber deepens. It's no longer a single note, but a harmony layers interwoven, rising and falling, until the very air seems alive with invisible music. The queen does not speak. She does not need to. Her eyes, heavy and half-closed, follow the motions of the ritual, each gesture as familiar as breath. The first drop is lavender. It is touched to her temples, cool against her skin. A circle is drawn, then a second, one upon each side. The maid's fingers move slowly, tenderly, pressing the oil into the skin with care. The queen exhales, and her mind follows the lavender into its fields, endless purple stretching beneath a sky without edge. Bees humming softly, wind moving like a lullaby across the earth. The second drop is frankincense. It is brushed along her wrists, where the pulse moves quietly beneath the skin. The scent rises sharper, resinous, like smoke curling upward in a forgotten temple. It grounds her, links her body to something older, something steady, something that endures beyond the night. The third is rose. It is touched to her heart. Just a drop pressed gently, the fragrance blooming warm and sweet. She feels its presence not only upon her skin, but within opening, unfolding, softening the weight of thought, replacing duty with tenderness, replacing crown with quiet. The fourth is sandalwood, is placed at the crown of her head, where the hair parts. The fragrance is rich, deep, and steady wood that has rested for ages, carrying silence in every grain. It surrounds her mind, steadying thought, slowing every ripple until the surface lies still, clear as water beneath a night sky. The last is chamomile. It is touched at her feet, at the souls that carried her through palaces and gardens, through halls of stone and paths of grass. The oil is faint, almost fragile, but it carries with it the hum of meadows and the memory of rest that begins in the earth itself. Her feet, her foundation, are given peace. Now the oils surround her, temples, wrists, heart, crown, and feet. 5 points of fragrance. 5 doors to rest. The queen breathes them all at once. Lavender's softness, frankincense's weight, rose's tenderness, sandalwood's depth, chamomile's whisper. They blend, not in confusion, but in harmony. A circle of scent, a wreath of invisible hands, cradling her from all directions. The maids step back, and silence deepens. The oils continue their work. They are more than fragrance. They are memory, history, belief. For centuries, oils have touched the skin of kings and queens, of healers and wanderers. They have anointed the living and honored the dead. They have been medicine. They have been offering. They have been prayer. And here, in the queen's chamber, they are sleep. The queen feels herself dissolving, not into nothing, but into everything. Her body is heavy, yet her spirit light. Her skin is warm, yet her mind cool. Her heart beats, yet slowly, as though in rhythm with an older pulse, that belongs not to her alone, but to the night itself. The oils guide her downward, into the bed, into the silence, into the dream. And as she drifts, The fragrances linger, fields of lavender, smoke of sacred resins, gardens of roses, wood of stillness, meadows of rest. All are with her. All surround her. All carry her deeper, until the chamber itself seems to fade, leaving only the scent and the queen sinking into its embrace. The chamber is cloaked in a quiet unlike any other hour of the day. Candles have burned low, their flames shrinking too small. Golden tongues that flicker restlessly, casting longer, gentler shadows against the stone and silk. But the silence is not complete. It is shaped, softened, and deepened by movement. Movement so slight that it could easily be missed, if one were to glance too quickly. The silk curtains at the windows sway. They do not rush, do not snap. They move in slow arcs, as though the night air itself is a careful hand pushing them back and forth in a rhythm as old as breath. The curtains are pale, woven with threads of silver and pearl, glimmering faintly when touched by the weak light of the moon. Their edges rise and fall like tides, each shift a small wave, carrying shadows along the walls of the chamber. The queen, her eyes nearly closed, senses this movement more than she sees it. The soft whisper of fabric against fabric, the brush of silk against stone, the way the air drifts through, carrying a trace of coolness, and the faint perfume of the night garden outside. Every curtain tells a story, not of words, but of silence, of stillness that is never static. They breathe in with the wind, they breathe out when the wind recedes. Inhale, exhale. The rhythm of sleep itself. The queen drifts in time with them. Her chest rises and falls in harmony, her body aligning with the unseen orchestra of air and cloth. What was once a mere detail of her chamber now becomes a companion, a subtle lullaby written not in notes, but in movement. Curtains as history. Curtains are not mere decoration. For centuries, they have stood as protectors of night. In grand palaces, curtains separated royalty from the chill of stone walls. From wandering eyes, from whispers of the corridor, they were shields of privacy, yet also guardians of warmth. The heavier the curtain, the greater its silence. Velvet and brocade blocked not only wind, but also sound, turning chambers into sanctuaries. The lighter the curtain, the more it invited the world in, allowing breezes, scents, and moonlight to slip gently across the threshold. The queen's silk curtains are both shield and invitation. They guard her from harshness, yet allow softness to enter. Their fabric is fine enough that the moonlight does not vanish, but passes through, blurring, diffusing, as though the night sky itself has been filtered into dreamlike haze. To her, the curtains are not only cloth, they are a veil between realms, between the waking world of duty and the sleeping world of dream, between the earth of today and the eternity of night. Textures of night. Imagine placing your hand upon silk as fine as the queen's curtains. The surface is cool, smooth, almost liquid in its softness. Yet beneath that softness lies strength, for silk, spun from the threads of tiny creatures, carries resilience that belies its delicacy. When the night breeze passes through, the fabric lifts and falls, grazing the air like a whisper of wings. It is not only the queen who feels soothed by this rhythm. Anyone who has ever slept beneath the movement of cloth knows the comfort it brings, the way it makes the air alive, the way it breaks silence, not with noise, but with grace. The curtains move like dancers, slow dancers, without music, without urgency. Their choreography is infinite, never the same twice, yet always familiar. The queen imagines them as guardians of her sleep dancers, who bow low to the night, rise with the breeze, and circle her bed in an endless, protective performance. Light and shadow, the dance of the curtains, is not only in their fabric, but in what they create upon the walls. When the moon shines bright, shadows stretch and contract with each sway. The chamber becomes a gallery of moving images, shifting slowly, as though the walls themselves are alive. Sometimes the curtains allow a glimpse of the night sky, a scattering of stars, distant yet steady. Then, with the next movement, they veil it again, leaving only the memory of light. This interplay comforts the queen. To see the stars, to have them hidden, to see them once more, this is the rhythm of all things. Presence and absence. Light and shadow. Wakefulness and sleep. Curtains and ritual. There are whispers, deep in history, that curtains held more than simple function. In some palaces, they were embroidered with protective symbols patterns of vines, eyes, or endless knots believed to shield the sleeper from restless spirits. Some were perfumed, brushed with oils or powders, so that every breeze carried not only coolness but fragrance. Lavender stitched into hymns. Rosewater misted across folds. Cedar chips sewn discreetly into the lining. In this way, curtains were more than fabric. They became part of sleep's ritual, part of the queen's secret architecture of rest. The queen's drift. Now, as the queen lies within her chamber, the curtains move again, slowly, patiently. She no longer separates herself from them. Their breath is her breath. Their rhythm is her rhythm. Her dance is her dream. She imagines herself as light as silk, drifting upon the same currents, lifted and lowered, without effort, without end. Her mind, which once clung to thought, now loosens. Her body, which once bore the weight of crowns and courts, now floats. She is neither queen nor woman, but fabric in the night, carried by unseen air, safe within its endless dance. The curtains sway, and she sways with them. Together, they move toward sleep. The chamber holds its breath. Curtains sway gently, shadows drift across the walls, and the queen lies surrounded by oils, by whispers of fabric, by the embrace of night. But the air is not yet complete. One more element will arrive, an element that cannot be touched, yet can be felt, that cannot be seen clearly, yet shapes everything it touches. The maid steps forward, carrying a small bronze censer. Its surface glimmers with faint patterns-etched vines, tiny birds, and spirals that seem to echo the smoke it is destined to carry. The metal is warm from earlier embers. Within it, fragments of wood and resin wait to be awakened. She kneels near the queen's bed, and with practiced calm, she lights the embers. At first, there is only a spark. Then, slowly, smoke begins to rise. The first spirals. The smoke is pale, almost invisible. Then it thickens, swirling upward in ribbons that twist and fold upon themselves like dancers in a slow, endless performance. It rises, then drifts, then curls back as though the air itself were dreaming. Each tendril bends as if listening to some secret rhythm, swaying with currents unseen. The queen opens her eyes just enough to see the spirals forming above her. They are never the same. Sometimes wide, sometimes vanishing into nothing, sometimes stretching long before dissolving into shadow. And with each spiral, the room deepens in stillness. The fragrance of resins. The first fragrance is sandalwood, warm, grounding, ancient. It spreads slowly, filling the corners of the chamber, smoothing the silence like a soft blanket spread over stone. The second is a looser, darker, resinous, carrying mystery. It does not shout, it hums, low and steady, like a voice from deep earth, calming the restless spirit, calling it downward, inward. The third is frankincense, sharp and clear. It rises with brightness, cutting through heaviness, lifting thought as if each curl of smoke were a string pulling her mind toward a higher stillness. Together, they create harmony. Warmth of sandalwood, depth of a loose wood, clarity of frankincense. The chamber is transformed into something more than a room. It is a sanctuary. Incense, across history. The queen knows she is not alone in this ritual. For thousands of years, across deserts and seas, incense has been burned for gods, for kings, for the living, for the dead. In Egypt, priests filled temples with clouds of frankincense, believing the smoke to be the breath of the divine. In China, scholars burned a loose wood while meditating, letting its slow fragrance quiet the mind and lengthen the thought. In Rome, emperors demanded the rarest resins from Arabia, their weight measured as though they were gold. In India, incense was woven into daily rhythm, each dawn greeted with smoke that rose to greet the sun. Always, incense carried the same belief, that smoke is a bridge between earth and sky, between body and spirit, between waking and dream.
Oh.
In the queen's chamber, it is the same. Smoke is guardian. And the queen breathes deeply. The incense enters her body, not as weight, but as release. Her lungs fill, and with each exhale, she feels lighter, as though the smoke carries her burdens upward and away. The maids watch silently. They believe the smoke does more than soothe. They believe it shields. that every spiral of incense is a wall thin, transparent, yet powerful, through which restless spirits cannot pass. Outside the chamber, the night is vast, filled with winds, with shadows, with unseen creatures. But here, wrapped in incense, the queen feels untouched, protected. The smoke is not a wall of stone, but a veil. And like a veil, it separates gently, without force, without harshness. The movement of smoke. It is easy to lose oneself in its shapes. One spiral twists like a rope, then unravels into threads. Another spreads wide, like wings opening, before collapsing into nothing. Another rises straight, steady, until a breeze bends it sideways, turning its path into a curve. The queen watches, slowly, patiently. Her mind follows each movement, and in following, it forgets everything else. There is no crown, no court, no weight of decision or memory of day. There is only smoke, dancing, vanishing, reborn, she thinks. This is what dreams are like. Always moving, never still. Always dissolving, yet never gone. The silence within smoke. Incense changes silence. Before the chamber's quiet was empty, wide. Now it is textured, full. It hums, it holds, it breathes in and out. It is silence with rhythm, silence that feels alive. The queen closes her eyes. She no longer needs to see. She can feel the smoke, as though it moves not only through the air but through her thoughts. Each spiral drifts across her mind, softening edges, loosening knots, smoothing roughness. The silence within smoke is different from sleep, yet it guides her toward it, step by step, curl by curl, the drift of night. Time stretches, or perhaps it dissolves. The queen cannot tell how long she has been watching the smoke. Moments feel endless. Endlessness feels like moments. The incense continues. It does not rush, does not demand, simply rises, endlessly, as though it has always risen and will always rise. And chic when woman dreamer follows it. Her breath slows further. Her body melts deeper. Her mind drifts into the smoke itself, until she feels she is no longer lying in bed, but floating, weightless, within the spirals. Upward, downward, vanishing, returning. She becomes the smoke. And the smoke becomes her dream. The incense lingers, spirals, fade into the night air. Yet its presence remains clinging to silk, to stone, to skin. The chamber is now more than a roomette, is a sanctuary woven of fragrance, silence, and shadow. The queen lies still, her eyes half closed, her breath slow. She is drifting, yet not fully gone. She hovers in the threshold between waking and dreaming, where the mind is soft, where thoughts unravel, where memories take the shape of whispers. And in that threshold, she begins to hear them, not voices of the living, not words spoken aloud, but echoes, soft, ancient, fragile, woven into the herbs that surround her. Every leaf, every root, every drop of oil carries not only scent, but history. And tonight, history speaks. The whisper of chamomile comes first, gentle and steady. The cup of chamomile she drank earlier still warms her chest. Its fragrance hums within her, and in its hum, she hears a voice. It is not in her language, not in words she knows, yet she understands. It is the voice of farmers in fields long vanished, tending to small white flowers beneath the sun. It is the voice of mothers, steeping the blossoms in clay cups, pressing them into the hands of weary children. It is the voice of countless nights across countless centuries, when chamomile soothed restless minds and slowed restless hearts. The queen breathes, and the whisper softens her further. The whisper of lavender. From her pillow, the lavender speaks next. It does not rush. Its voice is like fields swaying beneath summer winds, a murmur of purple stretching into the horizon. It whispers of shepherds carrying sachets to guard their sleep, of healers pressing sprigs between pages of manuscripts, believing the flower held secrets against nightmares, of villagers who hung lavender above their doors, trusting it to guard the night. The queen shifts slightly, her body sinking deeper into the bed. The lavender folds around her like memory made fragrant. The whisper of valerian, deeper, earthier, stronger. The valerian root waits in its carved wooden box, yet even from there its presence is known. Its whisper is different. Not gentle, but insistent. It speaks of nights when storms howled, when fear crept close, when sleep refused to come nights, when Valerian drew even the most troubled mind downward into dream. It whispers of ancient healers grinding its root, of medieval queens who trusted its bitterness, of soldiers who carried it to calm trembling hands after battle. The queen feels the gravity of its whisper, heavy, certain. A promise that no matter how loud the day has been, the night will still claim her. The whisper of mandrake. Stranger still is the mandrake. Its whisper is not soft. It is a chant, low and curious, echoing with myth. It speaks of roots shaped like bodies, hidden deep within the soil, dug with care and fear. It speaks of nights when queens and kings believed its essence was more than medicine, that it was magic, binding them to dreams that reached beyond the mortal world. The queen feels the mandrake not only as scent, but as presence, shadowed and mysterious. Its whisper does not comfort, but it fascinates. And fascination, too, can lead the mind towards sleep. The whisper of oils. The oils upon her body speak as well. Lavender at her temples, frankincense at her wrists, rose at her heart, sandalwood at her crown, chamomile at her feet. Together, they form a chorus. 5 voices in harmony. 5 directions of fragrance leading her inward, downward. They whisper of altars and temples, of sacred rites and healing rituals, of times when scent was prayer, when oil was not only fragrance but blessing. The queen does not need to understand the words. She feels their meaning in her slowing pulse, in her loosening muscles, in the way her body grows lighter, as though carried by their song. The whisper of incense. The smoke continues its spiral. Its whisper is older than any other. Speaks of deserts where caravans carried resins like treasure. Of temples where priests swung censers high, their smoke rising like rivers to the sky. Of kings who measured incense by weight of silver. Of queens who, like her, watched the smoke and let it guide them into the embrace of dream. It whispers, "You are not alone. Others have slept before you. Others have dreamed before you. And the smoke that carries you now has carried countless souls before." The whisper of time itself. As the queen listens, she realizes the whispers are not only of plants, nor only of rituals. They are of time. Time itself speaks through these herbs, through these resins, through these oils. Time tells her that every night is not separate, but part of an endless chain. Every queen before her, every sleeper before her, has followed these same paths into dream. Chamomile, lavender, valerian, mandrake, oils, and scents is a door. Each door opens not only to sleep, but to history itself. The queen's surrender. The whispers surround her now, weaving through her breath, her blood, her bones. They no longer come one by one. They come together. A tapestry of voices, soft yet unending. They tell her, "Rest, drift, you are held. You are remembered. You're part of the story that does not end." The queen exhales. Her body sinks. Her mind loosens. She feels herself not only sleeping, but joining something larger, a river of rest that has carried countless before her and will carry countless after. The whispers do not fade. They follow her into dream, becoming part of it, guiding her, guarding her, till she is gone, not in fear, but in peace. The incense lingers, spirals, fade into the night air, yet its presence remains clinging to silk, to stone, to skin. The chamber is now more than a roomette, is a sanctuary woven of fragrance, silence, and shadow. The queen lies still, her eyes half closed, her breath slow. She is drifting, yet not fully gone. She hovers in the threshold between waking and dreaming, where the mind is soft, where thoughts unravel, where memories take the shape of whispers. And in that threshold, she begins to hear them, not voices of the living, not words spoken aloud, but echoes, soft, ancient, fragile, woven into the herbs that surround her. Every leaf, every root, every drop of oil carries not only scent, but history. And tonight, history speaks. The whisper of chamomile comes first, gentle and steady. The cup of chamomile she drank earlier still warms her chest. Its fragrance hums within her, and in its hum, she hears a voice. It is not in her language. Not in words she knows, yet she understands. It is the voice of farmers in fields long vanished, tending to small white flowers beneath the sun. It is the voice of mothers, steeping the blossoms in clay cups, pressing them into the hands of weary children. It is the voice of countless nights across countless centuries, when chamomile soothed restless minds and slowed restless hearts. The queen breathes, and the whisper softens her further. The whisper of lavender. From her pillow, the lavender speaks next. It does not rush. Its voice is like fields swaying beneath summer winds, a murmur of purple stretching into the horizon. It whispers of shepherds carrying sachets to guard their sleep, of healers pressing sprigs between pages of manuscripts, believing the flower held secrets against nightmares, of villagers who hung lavender above their doors, trusting it to guard the night. The queen shifts slightly, her body sinking deeper into the bed. The lavender folds around her like memory made fragrant. The whisper of valerian, deeper, earthier, stronger. The valerian root waits in its carved wooden box, yet even from there its presence is known. Its whisper is different. Not gentle, but insistent. It speaks of nights when storms howled, when fear crept close, when sleep refused to come nights, when valerian drew even the most troubled mind downward into dream. It whispers of ancient healers grinding its root, of medieval queens who trusted its bitterness, of soldiers who carried it to calm trembling hands after battle. The queen feels the gravity of its whisper, heavy, certain. A promise that no matter how loud the day has been, the night will still claim her. The whisper of mandrake. Stranger still is the mandrake. Its whisper is not soft. It is a chant, low and curious, echoing with myth. It speaks of roots shaped like bodies, hidden deep within the soil, dug with care and fear. It speaks of nights when queens and kings believed its essence was more than medicine, that it was magic, binding them to dreams that reached beyond the mortal world. The queen feels the mandrake not only as scent, but as presence, shadowed and mysterious. Its whisper does not comfort, but it fascinates. And fascination, too, can lead the mind towards sleep. The whisper of oils. The oils upon her body speak as well. Lavender at her temples, frankincense at her wrists, rose at her heart, sandalwood at her crown, chamomile at her feet. Together, they form a chorus. 5 voices in harmony. 5 directions of fragrance leading her inward, downward. They whisper of altars and temples, of sacred rites and healing rituals, of times when scent was prayer, when oil was not only fragrance but blessing. The queen does not need to understand the words. She feels their meaning in her slowing pulse, in her loosening muscles, in the way her body grows lighter, as though carried by their song. The whisper of incense. The smoke continues its spiral. Its whisper is older than any other, speaks of deserts where caravans carried resins like treasure, of temples where priests swung censers high, their smoke rising like rivers to the sky, of kings who measured incense by weight of silver, of queens who, like her, watched the smoke and let it guide them into the embrace of dream. It whispers, "You are not alone. Others have slept before you. Others have dreamed before you. And the smoke that carries you now has carried countless souls before." The whisper of time itself. As the queen listens, she realizes the whispers are not only of plants, nor only of rituals. They are of time. Time itself speaks through these herbs, through these resins, through these oils. Time tells her that every night is not separate, but part of an endless chain. Every queen before her, every sleeper before her, has followed these same paths into dream. Chamomile, lavender, valerian, mandrake, oils, and scents is a door. Each door opens not only to sleep, but to history itself. The queen's surrender. The whispers surround her now, weaving through her breath, her blood, her bones. They no longer come one by one. They come together. A tapestry of voices, soft yet unending. They tell her, "Rest, drift, you are held. You are remembered. You're part of the story that does not end." The queen exhales. Her body sinks. Her mind loosens. She feels herself not only sleeping, but joining something larger, a river of rest that has carried countless before her and will carry countless after. The whispers do not fade. They follow her into dream, becoming part of it, guiding her, guarding her, till she is gone, not in fear, but in peace. The night deepens outside the palace, and the chamber grows quieter still. The queen lies in her bed, surrounded by the fragrance of herbs and the fading glow of incense, and her mind drifts toward the world beyond the walls. She has often been told that the night is not empty. Even when the court is silent, even when the city beyond the gates is asleep, there are unseen companions moving through the dark. In the gardens, among the tall branches of cypress and elm, bats take flight. Their wings are soundless, their paths unpredictable, their presence both feared and revered. To many in her kingdom, bats were creatures of shadow, omens whispered about in hushed tones, yet to the queen they were protectors of the night. Their wings, invisible in the darkness, seemed like shields stretched across the sky, guarding the hours when her body was most vulnerable. She remembers the stories told by her nurses, when she was a child, that bats consumed not only insects, but also the restless thoughts of sleepers. They were said to carry away the fragments of worry, the sharp edges of sorrow, and the lingering voices of the day. While owls were watchful and alert, the bats were silent keepers, never demanding attention, never breaking the stillness with their cries. They slipped through the air like shadows made of silk, and in their silence lay their power. The queen pictures them now, circling above the palace roof. They move in patterns that no one can predict, crossing and recrossing the air, tracing invisible loops in the moonlight. To the eye they are only flickers, brief shapes against the stars. But to her imagination, they are guardians forming a living veil over her chamber. Each wingbeat folds another layer of protection, another barrier of quiet. There are ancient beliefs passed down in her court and in other lands that the presence of bats could lengthen the span of dreams. Some healers whispered that placing dried wings, carefully preserved, near the bed could ensure a long, unbroken rest. Others believed that if a bat was seen circling low above the courtyard, it was a sign that the household would be safe until dawn. Whether such tales were true or not mattered little. What mattered was the sense of assurance they carried. The feeling that the night itself was guarded by creatures both mysterious and invisible. The queen exhales softly and imagines her chamber sealed by those unseen wings. She feels as though the air itself is thickened, becoming gentler, kinder, more protective. Outside, the rustling of trees becomes part of their song. The distant trickle of water in the fountains below seems to join the rhythm of their flight. Even the shadows on her walls move with their silence, flowing as if painted by their presence. Her body loosens further into the mattress. Her eyes grow heavier, not from effort, but from surrender. It is easy to rest when one feels watched over, when one believes the night itself has chosen to protect rather than threaten. And so she lets go of the last small fragment of caution, the final trace of wakefulness. Wrapped in the invisible guardianship of the bats, she drifts more deeply into sleep, safe beneath their shadowed wings. Beyond the chamber walls, the palace gardens rest beneath the dark sky. Their paths are empty, their fountains still, yet the night is never silent. The queen, half asleep in her bed, senses it tan and visible music rising from the world outside, soft as breath, steady as the tide. And the gardens have always been alive, even in the hours when no footsteps touch the stone paths. The first notes come from the trees. Tall cypress swayed gently in the night air, their branches moving like slow dancers, bending with a grace that is almost ceremonial. Each shift of their needles creates a faint murmur, not sharp, not insistent, but like the brushing of distant silk. The queen imagines those sounds weaving into her chamber, passing through the curtains, mingling with the last threads of incense that drift across her pillow. Beneath the cypress stand roses and jasmine, planted long ago by queens before her. Their fragrance lingers even at midnight, subtle but distinct, like a memory one does not realize is present until it is suddenly recalled. The breeze carries their perfume in waves, sometimes strong, sometimes faint, always enough to remind her that life stirs beyond her window. To breathe in their sweetness is to feel the weight of time itself. For these flowers bloom as they have for centuries, their cycles repeating as steady as breath. Deeper in the garden, the fountain sings. By day, its sound is lost amid voices and footsteps, but at night, it is a clear, unbroken song. Water strikes stone in endless rhythm, drop after drop, a melody without beginning and without end. The queen remembers sitting by that fountain in her youth, listening as the world slowed around her, the sound filling the air like a heartbeat larger than her own. Tonight, though the fountain is far beyond her chamber, she hears it in her mind, steady, certain, reassuring. Other voices join the night's choir. The wind brushes the hedges and the herbs planted near the kitchen walls sage time. Rosemary H. releasing a faint whisper of scent as leaves tremble in the cool air. To some, the wind might seem empty, but to her it is full, carrying not only the fragrance of the plants, but the ancient knowledge they hold. Every rustle of leaf becomes a verse, every breath of air a phrase. Above it all, the sky hums with silence. Stars scatter across the darkness like silver seeds, each one pulsing with quiet light. Their presence is not sound, yet the queen feels them as part of the song. A harmony too vast for ears to catch, too eternal for words to describe. In her drifting thoughts, she imagines each star as a note held forever, and together they form a hymn to the night itself. The queen's eyelids grow heavier as she listens. The gardens are not outside her chamber anymore. They are within her. The rustle of cypress is in her breath. The roses and jasmine are in the rhythm of her heart. The fountain's melody is in her pulse. Stars themselves are in the slow expansion of her chest as she inhales. The music of the garden has moved inward, until she is no longer only hearing it, she is part of it. Her body slackens further into the bed, sinking as though the mattress itself were made of earth, cradling her like soil cradles a seed. She feels her edges blur, her sense of self loosening, her form melting into the harmony of the world. She is not a queen now. She is a listener, a dreamer, a fragment of night dissolving into the garden's song. And as she drifts, the song continues. It does not demand attention. It does not rise or fall. It simply is. Endless, eternal, patient. It will go on long after her eyes close, long after her mind slips into the deep river of sleep. The queen surrenders to it, her last waking thought dissolving into the music that has no beginning and no end. The chamber is quiet now, steeped in the slow rhythm of the night. The queen lies upon her bed, and though her eyes are closed, her mind still lingers at the edge of waking, resting on the threshold of two worlds. One world is filled with walls and curtains, with gardens and fountains, with the distant hush of bats moving through the sky. The other is the formless place of dreams, where all such shapes dissolve into something softer, stranger, and free. She floats between them, carried as though upon a hidden river. Her breath becomes the oars. Inhale, exhale. Each cycle moves her further from the shore of waking life. The pulse in her chest slows to match the rhythm of the fountain outside. And her limbs feel no longer her own, but extensions of the bed itself, heavy, rooted, and perfectly at ease. The fragrance of herbs, though faint now, continues to accompany her, as though guiding her step by step into the unseen. Chamomile is still present in her chest. Lavender still brushes her senses. Sandalwood still lingers like the last traces of twilight. Each note is a companion on this journey. Each sent a gentle hand upon her back, nudging her further inward. The silence of the palace deepens. Where once there were faint echoes in the halls, now there is nothing. The stillness is absolute, so complete that even thought itself begins to feel heavy, reluctant to rise. The queen's mind wanders, not with effort but with ease, as though untethered. Shapes form behind her closed eyes, slowly at first, pale and unsteady, like shadows upon water. They carry no clear meaning, no sharp edge. A line becomes a curve, a blur becomes a figure, a glimmer becomes a memory half remembered. Dreams are near, waiting just beyond. She drifts further. The bed beneath her feels less like a piece of furniture and more like a vessel. The sheets no longer press against her. The pillow is no longer filled with lavender alone, but with cloud, air, and weightless night. Even the walls of the chamber seem to dissolve. The carved wood panels, the silken curtains, the flickering lamp pall are still there, yet all are blurred, softened, as though the world itself has begun to fade into mist. Outside, the garden's song continues, but she hears it now as if from underwater. The rustling leaves, the trickling fountain, the distant hum of the wind all are muffled, slowed, distant. They are no longer songs for the waking ear, but lullabies for the dreaming soul. Their rhythm does not vanish, but it bends, reshapes, becoming the texture of silence itself. The queen surrenders to this flow. She no longer clings to the thoughts of the day. She no longer holds the image of her chamber tightly. She lets it all slide away as naturally as the tide pulls back from the shore. She floats lighter now, carried on a current she cannot resist. There is no need to resist, for the current is kind. The water is gentle, and the destination is peace. Her body twitches once, a fleeting gesture, the last ripple of wakefulness passing through her limbs. Then stillness returns. Her chest rises, falls, rises again, so steady it could be mistaken for the rhythm of the world itself. The line between her and her surroundings has blurred. She is not only in the chamber, she is the chamber. She is the night. She is the quiet garden. She is the drift of incense. She is the echo of her own prayer, fading into stillness. Dreams gather closer. They hover at the edge of her mind, waiting for the final exhale to carry her across. They are patient. They do not rush. Like loyal attendants, they wait until she is ready, until the last thread of thought has loosened, and the last spark of resistance has gone dark. And then, at last, she yields. The drift becomes a surrender. The river carries her fully. And she passes into the realm where shapes no longer matter, where time loses its hold, where sleep folds itself around her like a cloak. She is gone from the waking world, yet present still in another world of dreams that stretches without end, vast and silent, waiting to cradle her until the dawn returns. The queen drifts deeper into the folds of night, yet the silence surrounding her chamber is not an empty silence. It is layered, rich with the weight of things unsaid, of traditions carried quietly from one generation to another. Though her mind slips closer to dreams, some part of her being still listens, as though the silence itself is speaking to her, sharing secrets that words would never dare reveal. The palace has always been a place of echoes, but the most enduring truths were never spoken aloud. In every corridor, in every shadowed corner, there were whispers of rituals older than the stone walls themselves. The herbs that burned by her bed, the oils that anointed her temples, the prayers that once filled the air, all of these were fragments of a lineage preserved in stillness. It was said that silence was the first teacher, that in the absence of speech, the body learned to rest, and in the absence of thought, the soul found its way home. When she was a child, long before she wore a crown, the queen had watched the elder women prepare the chambers of rest. They spoke little as they worked. Instead, they allowed their movements to communicate the knowledge passed through centuries. A pinch of chamomile here, a sprig of rosemary there, the slow unfurling of lavender in warm water, the tracing of sandalwood oil upon the wrists. Nothing was rushed, nothing wasted. The silence was as important as the herbs themselves. It was in that quiet that intention settled, and it was intention that gave the ritual its power. Even now, as she lies between waking and dreams, the queen can recall the quiet concentration of those hands. They never wrote their secrets down, for words were fragile, easily lost, easily misused. Instead, they preserved them in rhythm, in repetition, in the act itself. A daughter learned by watching her mother, an apprentice learned by following her mistress. Silence ensured that the wisdom remained whole, unbroken, free from distortion. The queen breathes, and with each breath, she feels herself entering the same unbroken chain. She is not merely resting in a chamber. She is resting within a tradition. She is not merely inhaling the fragrance of herbs. She is inhaling the memory of generations. The air that surrounds her is thick with their presence, though they are unseen. Their hands long turned to dust still guide her. Their intentions, once whispered in quiet rooms, still shape the silence tonight. The night deepens further. Outside, the bats still move invisibly. The garden still breathes with its own rhythm. The fountains continue their endless trickle. But within the chamber, time itself seems to pause. The silence grows dense, textured, like a fabric wrapped around her. It holds her not with force but with patience, allowing her to sink, allowing her to release, allowing her to forget the weight of crown and kingdom. In that stillness, she senses truths without words. that rest is not weakness, but strength. That silence is not emptiness, but fullness. That sleep is not escape, but return. These are not lessons spoken aloud, but lessons felt, woven into her bones by the long silence of the women who came before her. She carries their wisdom in her body now, even if she never speaks of it, even if no one around her would understand. Her breath steadies, slow and deep, and the silence grows heavier still, like the embrace of the earth. She feels herself sinking into it, layer by layer, further away from the noise of day, further away from the surface of thought. There are no words here, no demands, no questions. Only the soft, unbroken truth of rest, the oldest secret the night has ever kept. And as she finally drifts beyond the threshold, surrendering fully to the quiet, the chamber holds its breath as though to guard her. Ouch. The silence does not break. The traditions remain intact, and the secrets continue their journey, unspoken, unrecorded, yet living on in every sleeper who learns, without knowing how to rest in the arms of the night. The queen has crossed the final threshold of waking and entered the first quiet chamber of dreams. It is not sudden, not abrupt, but gentle, like the softest tide rising around her. She finds herself standing in a place that is both familiar and strange, a place woven from memory, yet reshaped by the hands of sleep. Around her stretches a corridor without end, wide and tall, lit not by torches or lamps, but by a glow that seems to come from the air itself, pale and steady as though the moon has found a way to live within the walls. The corridor is silent, yet it is not empty. The silence here carries presence, as though countless dreamers before her have walked these same halls. The stones beneath her feet are cool and polished, reflecting fragments of light in shifting patterns. The ceiling arches high above her like the inside of a cathedral built not by hands but by thought. She moves forward without effort, her steps gliding more than walking, as though the floor itself wishes to carry her onward. She notices the doors. Lining each side of the endless hall are tall, heavy doors, carved with patterns she cannot fully recognize. Some are marked with spirals that seem to move when she looks at them too closely. Others bear vines and leaves curling upward as though alive. A few are plain, unmarked, as though waiting for meaning to be given. She knows without being told that each door leads to a different dream, a different world spun from the threads of her mind, and perhaps from the minds of those who came before her. As she glides down the corridor, the air hums softly, not with sound, but with sensation, a vibration that thrums in her chest. It is the heartbeat of the dream itself, steady, guiding her deeper. She does not need to choose a door. She simply drifts, allowing the corridor to decide, trusting that whatever waits beyond is meant for her. And as she drifts, the silence grows warmer, more tender, wrapping her like a cloak. The queen remembers fragments of her waking life, the weight of her crown, the voices of her court, the rituals of rest that guided her into sleep. But here they feel distant, blurred as though seen through water. The corridor does not care for her titles or her duties. Here she is not queen or ruler or guardian of her people. She is only a traveler, a sleeper, a soul moving deeper into its own hidden chambers. The relief of this realization spreads through her like warmth, loosening even the faintest tension left in her body. She slows before one of the doors, not by choice, but by instinct. This door is darker than the others, carved from wood that looks impossibly old, older than any palace she has ever known. Its surface is worn, as though countless hands have touched it before her, and upon it are faint symbols that shimmer and fade like breath on glass. She does not recognize them, but she understands them, not with her mind, but with her heart. They speak of rest, of protection, of surrender. They whisper of a place where even the deepest worries lose their shape. The door opens without sound, swinging inward as though it has been waiting for her. Beyond lies not a room, but another stretch of dream, one that glimmers with soft, shifting light. It is neither night nor day, but something between, a twilight that stretches forever. Trees rise in the distance, their branches reaching upward, their leaves catching light that seems to come from nowhere. A river winds gently through the land, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the endless sky. She steps forward, and the corridor behind her fades, dissolving into the new world. The air here is sweeter, scented not with herbs, but with something more elusive like the memory of a fragrance once known, carried from childhood, ungraspable, yet comforting. The ground beneath her feet feels soft, almost like moss, giving way and holding her at once. As she walks, the river hums, not in words but in tones, long and low, soothing, like the voice of the night itself. She follows its curve, and with each step, she feels herself sinking further from thought, further from the fragments of waking memory. The world of duties, names, and tasks has no claim here. Here there is only movement without effort, silence without emptiness, presence without demand. The forest ahead thickens, yet it is not dark. Light seeps through the branches, dappling the ground in patterns that shift like breathing. She feels no fear, only the quiet certainty that this path is her own, shaped from her soul's hidden map. The air cools, and a breeze brushes against her cheek, gentle as a mother's hand. She knows that if she continues, she will reach the heart of the dream, a place where even silence dissolves into peace so complete it cannot be named. Her pace slows again, not from hesitation, but from surrender. She no longer seeks to move quickly. She no longer seeks to arrive. She lets the dream carry her, as she let the river of sleep carry her before. Step by step, breath by breath, she disappears further into the endless corridor, deeper into the forest, farther from waking. Closer to the boundless stillness that dreams alone can give. And so the queen drifts on, guided not by will, but by the gentle current of the dream itself, through doors without end, into worlds without boundaries, along corridors that stretch beyond time. Each step erases the world she left behind. Each breath draws her further into the embrace of sleep, until all that remains is the vast, endless silence of dreams. The queen moves deeper into the dream, her steps light, her breath steady, as though she is no longer bound by the weight of her body. The endless corridor has faded completely behind her, and now she finds herself surrounded by a forest unlike any she has known in waking life. The trees here are impossibly tall, their trunks wide and ancient, their roots weaving in patterns that feel older than memory itself. Each branch stretches high into the twilight sky, forming a canopy that shifts and shimmers, allowing light to fall in soft, broken streams. The air is cool, touched with the scent of earth and leaves, carrying with it the quiet promise of safety. The silence here is not empty. It is full, alive, as though the forest itself breathes. Every leaf trembles with a faint murmur. Every branch sways with the weight of whispers. At first, they are faint, so soft they seem like the rustle of wind. But as she lingers, she begins to understand. These are not ordinary sounds. The forest carries voices, forgotten voices, flowing through bark and leaf, echoing across the spaces between branches. They are not loud, never startling. They are soft, layered, weaving together into something like a distant hymn. The queen pauses, listening. She does not need to strain, does not need to ask. The voices are not meant to be deciphered word by word. They are meant to be felt, like the vibration of a distant harp string carried through the air. Some voices are deep, like the memory of fathers and kings long gone. Others are high and delicate, like the laughter of children whose names have been erased by time. Together, they form a chorus, vast and eternal, the forest's own song of memory. As she walks further, she notices how the trees themselves seem to lean inward. It's not to block her path, but to welcome her, to draw her into their embrace. Their bark glows faintly, as though light has been caught in their rings, stored for centuries, waiting to be released in her presence. When she brushes her hand against one of the trunks, the surface is cool, smooth in places, rough in others. And beneath her touch, the whispers swell slightly, as though the tree itself remembers her. The voices grow clearer in tone, though not in language. She cannot understand them in words, yet she knows their meaning. They speak of lives once lived, queens, who walked palaces in ages past. Healers who gathered herbs beneath the same stars, children who ran through gardens that no longer exist. They are fragments of existence that time has forgotten, but that the forest has kept. Woven into roots and branches, held safe in its endless memory. The queen feels no fear. Instead, she feels comfort, as though she is not alone. as though countless generations stand quietly beside her, watching, guiding, singing her deeper into sleep. Their presence is gentle, never demanding. They do not call her name. They do not remind her of duty or burden. They only hum and whisper, their voices rising and falling with the rhythm of her breath. With each inhalation, she takes them in. With each exhalation, she releases her own weariness back into their care. The path beneath her feet is soft, carpeted with moss that cushions every step. Tiny lights appear among the branches, glowing like distant fireflies, though they are slower, steadier, less fleeting. Perhaps they are not insects at all, but fragments of dreams, sparks of memory wandering through the trees. They float gently, casting soft halos of light that reveal more of the forest's shapes. The trunks rise like pillars, the branches stretch like arches, until the queen feels as though she has stepped into a cathedral made not by stone but by nature itself. And still, the voices continue. They do not grow louder, but they grow deeper, resonating in her chest, echoing in her bones. She realizes now that the whispers are not only from the past, they are also from her, from the moments of her own life that she has forgotten or left behind. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every dream she once had, this forest has caught them, preserved them, and now sings them back to her in a language beyond words. She drifts further, slower, her body lighter with each step. The forest seems endless, yet she does not need an end. She does not search for a destination. She understands now that the journey itself is the rest she sought. The whispers cradle her, the trees shelter her, the lights guide her, until she is no longer walking but gliding, no longer listening but merging. The queen closes her eyes, though the dream remains vivid around her. The forest continues to hum, continues to whisper, continues to carry the voices of those who came before and those who will come after. And in that song, she finds herself dissolving, her identity loosening like leaves falling into water. She is not separate from the forest. She is not separate from the whispers. She is part of them now, another voice, another memory, another fragment of eternity. The dream folds around her like a cloak. The forest continues its endless hymn, carrying her deeper and deeper into the boundless stillness of sleep. The queen is gone, yet she is everywhere, her presence scattered like fragrance in the air, like starlight across the night. The forest holds her, and she surrenders, at last, completely. The queen's night was never built on a single act, was not the cup of chamomile alone, nor the lavender sachet, nor the quiet prayer whispered beneath her breath. Instead, her rest was the result of countless gestures, woven one upon another, delicate as silk threads, forming a tapestry so subtle that it seemed invisible until one stepped back and looked at it whole. Think of her chamber. Each corner of it carried something chosen not by chance, but by memory and tradition. The polished wood of the bed frame, smoothed by generations of hands, held the weight of her body as she lay down. The curtains of silk, drawn softly against the night, moved with the air in rhythms that echoed breathing. The candles, guttering low, filled the room with a flickering that was neither bright nor dark, a light meant only to calm the eyes. And then the herbs. The chamomile steeped in water was not simply a drink, but a continuation of centuries of knowledge healers. An herbalist who had discovered that the tiny flowers carried within them a power that reached beyond taste, beyond fragrance. Every sip was a communion with those who had once stood in gardens by lamplight, harvesting blossoms with careful hands, storing them for nights such as these. Lavender, too, was more than a scent. It was memory itself, dried and preserved, releasing its fragrance when crushed, carrying with it whispers of fields bathed in summer sun. Valerian root, sharp and earthy, was a reminder that sleep is not always sweetness, that sometimes it requires the deep pull of the earth, the heavy hand of roots grown in darkness. Even this, pungent and strong, found its place in the tapestry. Wine infused with lemon balm and honey brought warmth, the faintest sweetness, like comfort carried from childhood into adulthood. Incense spiraled upward, carrying prayers on invisible currents, joining the air with the unseen world. All of these elements alone might have seemed small, yet together they formed a rhythm. Each action led to another, each detail flowed into the next. Sip of tea, touch of linen, breath of incense, whispered prayer. Over time, these gestures did more than prepare her body. They prepared her soul, teaching it to surrender gently, reminding it that rest was safe, that rest was deserved. And perhaps, as you listen, you notice that you too have been weaving a tapestry tonight. Each moment of this story, each image you have allowed into your mind, the palace at night, the maids with their quiet voices, the gardens whispering, and the breeze, all of these have become threads, laid one beside another. You may not have noticed when they began to connect. You may not have realized how one sound slipped into the next, how one fragrance led into another. And now at the end, you can feel their weight, not heavy, but full, not demanding, but complete. This is the nature of rest. It is not one thing, not one remedy, not one ritual. It is the gathering of many small comforts, the accumulation of gestures, the patience of repetition. It is the tapestry that forms slowly, silently, until it surrounds you and you no longer need to hold yourself upright against the day. You are wrapped, you are carried, you are already drifting as the queen drifted into the embrace of sleep. Sleep does not arrive all at once. It is not a door that closes suddenly, leaving one world behind and stepping into another. Instead, it is a bridge, long and steady, stretching across a quiet river. On one side lies the realm of waking, full of voices, duties, decisions, the weight of hours and names. On the other side lies the land of dreams, boundless, timeless, soft as mist, where thought dissolves into silence. And between them, connecting what seems separate, is the bridge, waiting, patient, guiding step by step. The queen walked this bridge every night. She did not hurry across, nor did she fear it. For her, the bridge was part of the ritual, a passage she welcomed, knowing that each slow step brought her farther from the clamor of the day. At the entrance of the bridge stood her familiar rituals, the cup of tea placed in her hands, the fragrance of lavender at her pillow, the last words whispered in prayer. These were the stones beneath her feet, the first supports of the crossing. The bridge stretched wide and long, yet it was never empty. Around her, the world shifted in subtle ways, as though the very air had grown gentler. Shadows no longer clung to sharp edges, but softened into shapes that reassured rather than startled. The faint light of candles seemed to glow with greater warmth, as though aware of their role in guiding her forward. Even silence itself took on a new texture, less hollow, more like a hand resting on her shoulder, reminding her that she was safe to continue. With each step, the noise of waking life grew fainter. The laughter in the halls, the murmurs of courtiers, the weight of decisions to be made, all drifted behind her like echoes carried away on the wind. Ahead, the bridge widened into a space where sound was different. The rustle of gardens in the night, the faint trickle of water from fountains, the hum of unseen voices, all of these blended into a harmony that marked her progress. The bridge was not merely a passage, it was a transformation, reshaping her body and mind into one that could rest. And perhaps you too have felt yourself walking this bridge tonight. Each segment of the Queen's story has been a step beneath your feet. At first, you were at the edge, still close to waking, your mind alive with detail, noticing the flicker of candlelight, the sound of footsteps in long corridors. Then you moved further, into gardens where the air itself seemed to sing, into forests where forgotten voices murmured in endless hymns. With every step, the world behind you dimmed. With every step, the world ahead opened more fully. The bridge requires nothing from you. You do not need to force your pace. You do not need to choose where to place your feet. It carries you as much as you walk it, each breath another plank beneath you, each exhale another handrail guiding you onward. You are both traveler and passenger, carried by the current of rest, by the patience of night. At the midpoint of the bridge, where waking and dreaming meet, there is a pause. It is neither one world nor the other. It is the in-between, where time feels slower, where thoughts lose their edges, where even the body seems lighter. The queen often lingered here without realizing it, standing in that half-space where her eyelids grew heavy. But her mind still floated. She did not rush through it, for this was the sweetest part, the threshold itself, where one could taste both the quiet of dreams and the remnants of waking. From here the path forward is inevitable. The bridge continues on, and the only task is to follow. The queen always did. She trusted the bridge, trusted the rituals that had led her to it, trusted the night to carry her across. And so must you. Already, you are further along than you know. The world of waking is smaller behind you, shrinking with every heartbeat. The world of dreams is wider before you, opening with every breath. And soon very soon, the bridge will deliver you completely, gently, into the soft embrace of sleep. Night was never truly empty for the queen. When the last attendants withdrew, when the doors closed softly and the chamber fell into silence, she was not alone. The night itself, vast and eternal, became her companion. It arrived not as a stranger, but as an old friend, familiar and patient, carrying with it the same comforts it had always carried generation after generation. The stars, though distant, were part of this companionship. She often imagined that they watched her gently, unhurried and constant, tiny fires burning for no other purpose than to remind mortals that they were not forgotten. Their light crossed great distances, far longer than the span of any life, yet it reached her window each night faithfully. She did not need to count them, nor give them names. Their presence was enough. They shimmered quietly, as though breathing with her, as though keeping time with the slow beating of her heart. The moon, too, was a companion. Some nights it came as a thin silver thread, fragile and barely visible, a whisper in the sky. Other nights it appeared whole and round, filling the chamber with pale light that softened every edge. The queen thought of it as a companion who never spoke but always listened, casting its glow into her room without judgment. When she lay upon her bed, she often felt as though the moon itself leaned closer, bathing her in a comfort that no human hand could provide. The winds outside her chamber joined this quiet company. Sometimes they carried the scent of the palace garden's roses, night-blooming jasmine, damp earth, freshly cooled by twilight. At other times they carried the crispness of distant hills, or the faint chill of waters from unseen streams. Each current of air was like a letter delivered to her senses, written by the world beyond the walls. They moved her curtains in gentle arcs, like the breath of a guardian who kept watch as she drifted away. Even the silence of the room had its companionship. For silence is never nothing. It is filled with the hidden presence of all things at rest. The hush between sounds is a gathering place for everything that is gentle and still. In that silence, the queen felt herself part of something greater, a vast web of resting lives, the servants asleep in their chambers, the city quieting in its streets, the animals of the forests curled in their burrows and nests. The silence was not absence. It was connection. And so, she rested each night among companions that asked nothing of her. Companions who did not speak in demands or weigh her with expectation. They were eternal in their patience, tireless in their presence. Their only purpose was to remind her that rest is part of the order of the world, as constant as moonrise, as steady as the turning of the stars. Perhaps you too feel them now, around you, the quiet that fills your room, the softness of air against your skin, the rhythm of your own breath rising and falling. These are not accidents. These are your companions tonight. They do not need you to respond, do not require your effort. They are here to remind you that you are not alone, even in the quiet. That rest is part of something ancient, something shared by all who live. The queen surrendered to them each night. And as she did, she felt the weight of her body sink deeper into the bed, her mind loosen its hold on the burdens of day, her soul slip into the current that carries all things toward peace. You two are surrounded, supported, carried. Each star, each shadow, each breath of air is guiding you closer to the place where sleep waits. And so the companions of night continue their work silent, eternal, and endlessly gentle, till your own eyes close and you join their quiet company in the stillness of dreams. Rest was not an invention of one age, nor the secret of queens alone. It was something far older, something woven into the very fabric of existence itself. Long before palaces were built, long before herbs were gathered and prayers were spoken, the rhythm of rest had already been written into the world. It is the same rhythm that guided the queen when she closed her eyes, the same rhythm that guides you tonight. If you listen closely, not with your ears, but with the softer sense that lives within, you can feel this rhythm moving around you. It is in the rise and fall of your breath, as steady as waves upon a shore. It is in the slow drift of time itself, as 1 hour folds into the next, and night stretches gently into dawn. It is in the stillness between heartbeats, that tiny pause that allows life to continue without hurry. This rhythm does not demand your attention, continues whether you notice it or not, patient and unbroken. The queen, in her chamber, learned to surrender to it. She did not command sleep, for sleep does not come by force. She invited it, gently, as one might invite a friend to sit quietly nearby. She allowed her body to move in time with this ancient rhythm, the exhale longer than the inhale, the body heavier than before, the thoughts slowing until they dissolved into silence. In this way, she became part of something far greater than herself, something that stretched beyond the walls of her palace and beyond the limits of her reign. This rhythm is not confined to humans. It touches all living things. The trees in her garden followed it as their leaves folded in the coolness of night. The birds obeyed it as they tucked their heads beneath their wings. The rivers followed it as their waters slowed in the dim light, reflecting the faint shimmer of stars. Even the stones, unmoving and silent, seemed to hum faintly with it, as though the earth itself kept time with the universe. Everything rested. Everything yielded to the same eternal beat. And you, too, are part of this rhythm. You may not always notice it during the noise of the day, when schedules and duties seem to pull you away. But here, in the quiet of night, it reveals itself again. Each breath you take is a step upon that endless pattern. Each gentle drift of thought is a reminder that rest is not an interruption of life. It is life continuing in its softest form. The queen often wondered, as she surrendered to this rhythm, how many others across the world were following it too. Farmers lying down after their fields had been tended. Sailors rocked to sleep by the sway of the sea. Children curled into blankets, their dreams already carrying them far. Even her ancestors, centuries gone, had followed the same rhythm, their bodies sinking into stillness as the stars turned overhead. In this way, rest was not only personal, but shared. A vast chorus of lives breathing together in sleep, across lands and generations. Think of it now. How many others at this very moment are breathing in time with you? Somewhere, another soul lies beneath a different sky, yet is guided by the same rhythm. Somewhere, another heart slows, another mind drifts, another body yields to rest. You do not know their names, nor are they yours, but you are joined to them in this endless cycle, just as the queen was joined to her people, her ancestors, and all those yet to come. This rhythm is eternal. It will carry you tonight, as it has carried countless before you, and countless yet to live. You need do nothing more than allow yourself to be borne upon it. Like a leaf upon a gentle river, like a star carried endlessly across the sky. No resistance is needed, no effort required. The rhythm knows the way. It will take you where you need to go. The queen, lying beneath her silken canopy, felt the rhythm cradle her each night. And as she drifted into sleep, she knew that she was not stepping away from life, but deeper into it, into the part of life that renews, that heals, that prepares for the dawn. Tonight, you are doing the same. You are surrendering, not to emptiness, but to fullness, the fullness of a rhythm that has no beginning and no end. And so, let yourself be carried now. Feel the breath as it arcees. Feel it as it falls. Each cycle is part of that endless song. Each moment is part of that eternal pattern. You are safe within it. You are sustained by it. And as your eyes grow heavier, as your body sinks into softness, you join the queen and countless others in the endless rhythm of rest. Sleep for the queen was never an ending, was never a shutting of doors nor a fading into nothingness. It was instead a continuation, gentle, unbroken, and eternal, like the soft turning of seasons, like the endless circling of the stars. It carried her quietly from one state of being to another. The waking day dissolved, yet something deeper endured, something steady that asked for nothing more than surrender. The chamber around her knew this rhythm well. Night after night, it bore witness to the same gentle continuation. The curtains swayed with the breeze, their slow movements repeating endlessly, a reminder that nothing truly stops. Even when stillness seems complete, the world breathes. The shadows shifted across the walls, never vanishing but flowing, changing shape, melting into one another as the moon traced its course across the sky. In that slow unfolding, the queen found reassurance. If the shadows could move so peacefully, she too could let herself drift without resistance. Her herbs, her rituals, her whispered prayers all were simply bridges, carrying her toward the place where continuation waited. The chamomile, with its mild fragrance, softened the edges of thought. Lavender, resting on her pillow, was not just a plant, but a reminder of the gardens that bloomed outside her walls, of the soil that never ceased to nurture. The valerian root, earthy and strong, seemed to carry within it the memory of countless nights before her own, as though sleep itself had been distilled into its fibers. Even the stranger remedies, the whispers of mandrake or the myths of bats, were not interruptions, but part of the same long line of human searching, for rest, for renewal, for the comfort of being carried beyond the reach of worry. The continuation of sleep was never hers alone. She lay down, so did many others. Her maids, their voices hushed after their final prayers, surrendered to their own dreams. Farmers, far from the palace, folded their bodies into straw beds, their muscles loosening after long labor. Children curled against their mothers, their small breaths blending into the wider hush of the night. Even the animals of field and forest joined in, the fox retreating to its den, the owl closing its eyes once the hunt was done, the horse lowering its head in the stable. Each joined the same current. Each was part of the same endless continuation. And so it is tonight for you as well. What you feel in this moment, the slowing of your thoughts, the heaviness in your eyelids, the way your body grows softer against the bed, is not an ending. It is the gentle continuation of all that came before. Every moment of your day has led here, flowing into this single point where wakefulness yields to rest. It is not a break. It is not a silence. It is the other side of living, as necessary as breath, as natural as the rising and setting of the sun. Notice how the world around you joins in. Perhaps a faint hum of the night air drifts through your window. Perhaps the walls around you grow quieter, as though they too are settling. Perhaps there is only stillness, vast and open, wrapping itself around you like the sky. Each sound, or the absence of sound, is part of the continuation. Nothing resists. Nothing hurries. All moves toward the same destination. Slowly, peacefully, inevitably. The queen learned in her chamber that she did not need to cling to consciousness. She did not need to worry about the precise moment sleep would arrive. It always arrived, like the tide returning to the shore. It came faithfully, without demand, without fail. She needed only to let herself float, her thoughts dissolving into the softness that surrounded her. And each time she discovered that sleep had been waiting all along, ready to continue the story where waking had left off. So it is for you. You do not fall into emptiness when you sleep. You drift into the continuation of something far greater. Dreams unfold, sometimes remembered, sometimes forgotten, yet always there, carrying you quietly through the hours. Your body restores itself, hidden processes weaving silently beneath the surface, as steady as the weaving of night into dawn. Your mind finds stillness, settling into rhythms older than memory. All of it is continuation life unfolding in its gentlest form, and even as you rest, the world continues with you. The stars wheel silently above, the moon glides across its path. The earth itself turns, never stopping, yet never rushing. You're part of that turning. You're part of that rhythm. You're not separate from it. You are carried within it, as the queen was carried, as countless before and countless after will be carried. Allow yourself now to feel the truth of this continuation. Each breath you take is not a step toward an ending, but part of an unbroken flow. Each heartbeat is another note in a song that never stops. Each moment of release, each loosening of thought, each sigh of relief is part of the eternal pattern that cradles all life. The queen surrendered to it, and so can you. Her nights stretched into mornings, her worries softened into forgetfulness, her body renewed itself while she drifted into dreams. Your night can do the same. Already, you are moving within it. Already, your breath and your stillness have joined the current. There is no need to hold on, no need to force or to wait. Continuation has already begun. It is carrying you now, quietly, steadily, endlessly. Let yourself go with it. Let yourself drift deeper. Feel the weight of your body sink further into rest. Feel your thoughts grow lighter, dissolving like mist in the morning sun. You are safe. You are supported. You're part of the gentle continuation that has always been and always will be. And as your eyes close, as your breath deepens, as your awareness softens into silence, you join the queen, all who have ever sought rest. In this eternal truth that sleep is not an end but a gentle continuation, flowing unbroken and endlessly kind.